Theater Talk is made possible in part by the CUNY TV Foundation.
From New York City, this is Theater Talk. I'm Michael Riedel of the New York Post.
And I'm the show's producer, Catherine Zeta-Jones. Now, of course, I'm not Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Oh, you could have fooled me.
But I wish I were, because I think she's going to win a Tony this year, and that's the first prediction of this year's annual Tony Prediction Show here on Theater Talk.
All right. It is the Tony Award time on Broadway, and we are here to predict these conflict-riddled, commercially crass, horrible, terrible awards. But sometimes they do go to real artists in the theater, and we want to celebrate those artistic achievements tonight with our panel of Tony Award predictors. I'm happy to be joined, as always, by Michael Musto of The Village Voice. And La Dolce Musto is your blog?
Close, dailymusto.com, and I'm rooting for Bye Bye Birdie all the way to get a nomination.
And we are also joined by our old friend Jesse Green of New York Magazine. Now, do you have a blog as well, La Daily Jesse? Is that
no, I read blogs.
You do read.
So I'd like people to read all the blogs that I read.
And we're joined by a non-blogger, but old school media, Patrick Pacheco.
Really old school.
Real old school media. Patrick Pacheco of the Los Angeles Times and New York One on Stage, and now a film producer and writer with your new movie, Waking Sleeping Beauty, about the resurgence of the animation department at the Disney Studios in the 1980s.
Wow.
Did I get it
well
all right?
Well done, Michael.
All right, gentlemen, let's jump in to see who's going to win these Tony Awards this year. Let's start with Best Play, shall we? The nominees, Susan, are?
Best Play, In the Next Room, or The Vibrator Play by Sarah Rule, Next Fall by Jeffrey Knopf, Red by John Logan, Time Stands Still by Donald Margulies.
This is an interesting category, I think, Michael. I think we can eliminate In the Next Room or The Vibrator Play, because I didn't bother to see it. And Time Stands Still is closed, so it seems to me the race is between Next Fall, which is a kind of charming little gay play on Broadway.
How'd you enjoy Next Fall, Michael?
I didn't see that. And Red, which I haven't seen yet either, about an artist.
But you saw Bye Bye Birdie, right?
That's right.
Okay, good.
So, all right, who's going to win this?
Well, my personal favorite is Next Fall, which was charming but also dramatic. It's about a gay relationship between a guy who feels that after you have sex, you have to confess or you're going to go to hell, and another guy who just wants to have sex.
You accept Christ as the Son of God and that he died on the cross for all your sins.
It's a rarefied experience, let's put it that way. It's kind of love-hate. I think the award is going to go to Red, because it's basically a one-man show, but it's done as a two-person show.
And what is Red about?
It's about the artist Mark Rothko.
Martha Rothko.
Not Martha Rothko.
It's also a gay
who had a
play,
sex
isn't
change.
it?
It's also a gay play, too.
No, but he's a misanthrope who just hates everything, but in the process of railing against mankind, he kind of creates this brilliant canvas and also has a sparring match verbally with this other guy played by Eddie Redmayne. I also think Alfred Molina and Eddie Redmayne are going to win the acting awards.
All right, Jesse, which of these plays did you like best?
Well, of the ones nominated, I liked In the Next Room best, the one you most didn't see. And, but I agree with Michael that Red is the likely winner. It's the kind of play that Tony voters traditionally have gone for.
And what does that mean? It's pseudo-intellectual? It's a fake important play?
Well, you said that.
Not having seen it
It
myself.
comes with the imprimatur of a London production. It has fantastic central performance. It addresses cultural issues, whether in a pseudo way or a real way. I'll leave it for esteemed critics to decide. But it is the kind of play that frequently pleases the voters.
And it's got some great painting stuff.
It's
in it.
also it's also flashy in
Yeah.
production values, right, Patrick? Do you think that sways the voters?
I think it's beautifully directed, superbly
By Michael
directed.
Grandage.
By Michael Grandage,
And
who's also
designed.
nominated,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And who may well win. And it's also 90 minutes, no intermission. I think that counts for a lot. I wouldn't count, like Michael Musto, my personal favorite was Next Fall. But I'm not quite sure it stands a chance. I wouldn't count out Time Stands Still.
You were young once too, you know. You were her age when I hired you as my intern.
I was never like
Younger
that.
even.
It got very good reviews. I think there was some passion for it.
And
it is
coming
reopened.
back.
And
It
it's
is
coming
reopened.
back. And it also has that worthy subject matter, of a woman.
Well,
But
coming
art
back from a
plays
war
usually
time.
win. Remember the play Art, also
Yeah.
with Alfred
Yes.
Molina? People love the idea of discourse about art. It makes them feel very
Absolutely.
smart watching it.
I'm a sucker for that every time. And were I a Tony voter, I would be voting for it.
So you think it's going to be Red?
I think it's going to be Red. I personally wouldn't have voted for it, even though I enjoyed it.
Red?
Red.
Red.
Well, unless there's this next fall
Juggernaut?
upset.
Juggernaut?
Yeah, Juggernaut, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Bye Bye Birdie. All right. moving on to best musical. A very interesting race shaping up here. Susan, the nominees, please.
Best musical, American Idiot, Fela, Memphis, $1 Million Quartet.
It strikes me, Patrick, that the race is between Fela and Memphis, with American Idiots possibly as a spoiler. Where do you see this going now?
I think it's fascinating. There are two wild cards in this year that weren't in the last year. Number one, we've been kicked off, right? So there's a voting block of about 100, media people.
We should
who
say
will not
the
be voting.
And
press.
intellectuals.
Yes, the intellectuals.
100 members of the theatrical press who had always been Tony voters this year were stripped of their Tony voting privileges. So there are no members of the press corps voting for Tonys this year.
I don't see a lot of passion for any of these four nominees out there in terms of either the public or the voters. I don't think they're really crazy as they were, say, for Billy Elliot last year. So I think those two wild cards are going to come to play. I think that Memphis is going to win.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Well, because I think it's a complete musical. It's a book musical. It's an original book musical. That's a rarity in and of itself. The rest of these all are sort of jukebox musicals. I think if we were still voting, I think Fela would win.
Well, have you counted the number of producers on each show? Because clearly that's the defining characteristic now of who's going to win.
Well, there are 25 producers above the title for just about every show, so don't they cancel each other out?
Didn't you say there were 600 above the title producers in the whole race?
There was a meeting of the League of the Broadway League, represents the producers, and at this meeting they discussed that there are too many people going up on stage to accept the Tony Awards because there are so many producers above the title. So they want to limit the number of people going up. And one of the producers in the room kept a running tab and said that this year there are 475 producers above the title of all the shows.
Of just one play.
It should be whoever gave more than $250 should get up there. But look, I think we could rule out American Idiot because
Why?
it's more of a glorified concert. It's strong, but people think it's no Spring Awakening, and that was no Reds.
I don't think that's why we can rule it out. I mean, I would have voted for American Idiot probably, and it's not geared to me by any means, but I think the reason we can rule it out is because the Tony voters by and large are older and don't seem to have responded to it, as is evidenced by the fact that there were so many snubs in the other categories.
Well, the
in that
nominators
show.
are different from the voters, but I do agree that the voters tend towards old, but then again, they voted Spring Awakening for Best Musical a few years ago.
But the critics and the press were in that voting, and they're not anymore.
You're saying that I made all the difference all these years? All those years, not one thing I voted for won. But suddenly, because I'm not voting, everything's changed. Look, I do agree it's a race between Memphis and Fela. Memphis was the little show that could. When it opened early in the season, let's face it, none of us thought it would last a month. Fela, I actually think is going to win because even though it might be seen as a glorified jukebox show, it's not your everyday jukebox show. It's by a guy most people have never heard of. It combines political activism, African history with get out of your seat and bump your crotch. You know, and I think people are going to see it as more of an artistic venture than Memphis, which is just kind of a paint by numbers kind of nice show.
So you think Fela beats Memphis?
Yes.
Tip the balance here.
I think Memphis will win.
Why?
For the reasons that Patrick said, because it is the show that is most like a show.
And they can tour it.
I'll tell you the reason it's going to win. It's going to win because there is a block of voters who are the people who present shows around the country. They own the theaters around the country. And they're looking at Fela and they're saying Fela is not going to play in Omaha. It's not going to play in St. Louis. Memphis will. Yep. Memphis is, pleasant, bland, nice book musical. That's what we want to come to play our theaters, and we want to say, come to see the new Tony Award-winning Broadway show.
And
Memphis.
What's the difference between the shows? Fela is about black music, by and with black people. Memphis is about how great white people were in promoting black music. You might be right, Memphis is going to win.
Is there anything you think the Fela people should be doing just politically and tactically to try to win this award, to beat Memphis?
Put us back in the voting.
Well, I mean, Jay-Z's a producer, but maybe Jay-Z should be out there promoting.
Get Betty White in it.
I think there's that much politicking that goes along this thing. I don't think you can tip the balance in any way. I think its 11 nominations were great. I don't know that it got that much of a bump from those 11 nominations, interestingly enough. What was shocking about the nominations is, they left out Michael Mayer from the directing nominees.
For American Idiot.
For American Idiot.
Yeah.
He was responsible for the success of that
And
show.
we virtually created the book.
Right, and they only gave 3 nominations to two of the nominees, Million Dollar Quartet and to American Idiot. And then, the rest were scattered among mainly revivals.
Right. So, all right, very quickly, you believe it's going to be Memphis.
Bella.
Memphis.
It's going to be Memphis, I think.
Bye Bye Birdie, I think, is the one that's going to get. All right.
Michael, you're sticking your neck out as usual.
Best revival of a play. The nominees are
Fences, Lend Me a Tenor, The Royal Family, A View from the Bridge.
Now, Michael, I think there's a sense that Fences, which is the biggest commercial success of the season, with Denzel Washington, you can't get a ticket to it. There's a sense that this is going to win, but I have a feeling that A View from the Bridge, which was very well received with Liev Schreiber and Scarlett Johansson, might pose a challenge to it. What do you think?
I think it's Fences all the way. It's like an Oprah show. It's very relevant for now. I raised your daughter, but you have no woman.
I'd like to dissociate myself right now.
I think we're now leaving.
Address
all your letters and cards to
My
Michael.
daily motto.
Well, I'm sorry. Have you seen Fences? No. Why am I asking? But the audience responds to it with the immediacy of something they would see on a talk show.
It's gut-wrenching, Lee.
And you know what? This is the year the Tonys got over their snobbery about big movie stars. Notice how many huge stars are nominated. In the past, you're a star, come to Broadway, you're slumming, we don't honor you. Denzel Washington's nominated, Kelsey Grammer, Sean Hayes, Catherine Zeta-Jones, on and on. Jude Law.
Yeah.
But I just think...
Of all people.
Stars. Big
But
stars.
Denzel Washington...
It's because of the recession. It's like, thank you,
He's
people, for
excellent.
bringing business to Broadway. And you know what? It is excellent. Fences, it's not as good as the original. I'm really old.
With James Earl Jones and Mary Alice.
Yes, but it's damn good.
Yeah. What do you think?
I think it's going to be Fences, and I don't think it's just because of the reasons that Michael so eloquently stated.
Would you like to get yourself in trouble as well?
No, I think, talking about Denzel Washington, he wasn't nominated last time he was on Broadway, and that's because he wasn't very good.
No, that was awful.
Yeah, and Julius Caesar played Brutus.
Julius Caesar, he's fantastic in this production, and so is most of the rest of the production. And although A View from the Bridge was also excellent, short memories.
Yeah. Patrick, you're a Fences man?
Yeah, it's an event. It's a really fun event. It was the most exciting event of any of the productions that I saw this season.
Susan, you're a Fences woman?
Yes, I think Fences.
Yeah, I think Fences too. All right, revival of a musical. The nominees are?
Finian's Rainbow, La Cage aux Folles, A Little Night Music, Ragtime.
This one seems to be a fairly easy call. We all think it's going to be La Cage, right?
Yes.
And now you guys are old enough to have seen the original. How does this new one
gay enough.
compare to gay enough to see
I'm not
the
a big fan of the idea that, it's marked down, there's only 6 Kegels and 3 sequins, therefore you can find the humanity.
No.
You could find the humanity in a splashy show, and they always did. I didn't love this. I actually thought Finian, if it was still running, would win. But this is going to win. People love that whole Douglas Hodge, every line is a 3-act opera. I mean, when he accepts it, there's going to be a lot of this going on.
You like this La Cage, Patrick?
I like the first act a lot. It wasn't crazy about as much about the second
All the
act.
second act is the best of times is now. That's the entire
No,
second
no.
act.
I actually liked A Little Night Music better. And I think A Little Night Music might pose a challenge to La Cage.
I agree with you. I agree with you that it might pose a challenge.
Well, it was
because that
equally
lovely.
cheap and cheesy. Dirty mirrors.
I mean, it's such a. But it's a really great. It's a really great musical. A Little
That was
Night Music in a way that I
Scandinavian
think the La Cage aux Folles, for all its virtues, is not.
Where are you on this, Jesse?
Well, there's no question that A Little Night Music is the finer material, but that is not what the Tony for Revival is given for.
What's it given for?
It's given for the revival, not for the original material.
For
So,
this particular
and
production.
in this case, much as I loved Night Music and many things about it, I think the excitement is behind La Cage. And I did feel it was the best version I'd seen of the 3 that I have seen.
Do you think that had La Cage opened in the fall and A Little Night Music opened in the spring, so that the buzz was still active about A Little Night Music, which had the wonderful Catherine Zeta-Jones and Angela Lansbury giving great performances? Do you think that this would change the situation?
No, I don't. I think if you cast your mind back to the fall,
Yes.
you'll recall that while the critics liked Catherine Zeta-Jones and they liked Angela Lansbury, they did not particularly like Trevor Nunn's production. La Cage and Fences got uniformly good reviews.
Yeah, but you're still talking about critical response versus Tony voting response.
Yes, but the critics have an impact there because, you know, the Tony voters are led to some extent by what the New York Times is saying.
I think they're led by their emotions.
They don't have emotions. They're led by their pocketbook, Patrick. You know that.
I think they're led by what they had the best time at.
But the critics give them cover to vote for the less quality show. So that if the critics said that La Cage aux Folles is great, then those people who might have voted for it, but maybe were hesitant because Little Night Music is the big name, the famous show, they get cover to do it, and then they vote for it. Little Night Music is the better material and the less good production.
So you say
La Cage.
Michael?
La Cage.
I say La Cage, but don't count out Little Night Music.
Susan?
La Cage.
The best of times is now, and I saw it. All right, moving into the acting awards, we have some major performances on Broadway this season. Leading actor in a play, the nominees are
Jude Law, Hamlet. Alfred Molina, Red. Liev Schreiber, A View from the Bridge. Christopher Walken, A Behanding in Spokane. Denzel Washington, Fences.
Patrick? Do you want to make a case for Liev Schreiber? He was awfully good, I thought, in A View from the Bridge.
I think if that was still running, he would win, and I think that is a factor. I think Alfred Molina, as I said, is going to win. And Tony Shalhoub was left out to lend me a tenor. James Spader was fantastic in Race. These people aren't even nominated. If Christopher Walken won, I'd be thrilled, even though he could play that wacko part in his sleep. But he does it better than anybody.
Yeah, man.
But I'm going with Alfred Molina to win.
Yeah.
And you, Jesse?
I think Denzel Washington will win. And I agree with everything else Michael said.
I would also put in a good word for Chris Walken.
Matt, what took you so long?
As you say, we've seen him do these funny, menacing types before, but nobody does it better than Chris Walken. But I think Denzel's going to win.
That was the most entertaining evening I spent in the theater because I was watching Christopher Walken do that thing, and I just loved it.
With one hand, because he plays a man who has his hand
one
chopped
hand
off.
tied to him.
All right, leading actress in a play. The nominees are
Viola Davis, Fences. Valerie Harper, Loop. Linda Lavin, Collected Stories. Laura Linney, Time Stands Still. Jan Maxwell, The Royal Family.
Michael, can I get you to do your Valerie Harper as Tallulah Bankhead imitation for us?
Darling, I've run out of toilet paper. Do you have change for 20? You know, originally I was convinced Laura Linney was going to win, and then along came Linda Lavin. I was like, she's got it. And then I was like, no, wait, they're going to give it to Jan Maxwell. Then I realized Jan Maxwell is going to win supporting, and now this belongs to Viola Davis for Fences.
No question.
That's how the whole thought process went. Not that anybody cares.
Jesse?
I have Viola Davis.
Viola Davis, yeah.
Why don't you admit you were too old for the major leagues? For once, why don't you admit that?
Yeah, I think Viola Davis wins. I'd like to put in a good word for Jan Maxwell. I think she's absolutely terrific, and I really hope she wins in the supporting category for Lend Me a Tenor.
I think it's Viola Davis, too, who's just superb, but I want to put in a good word for Valerie Harper. I didn't think Loop was the greatest play in the world, but I thought Valerie Harper was really delightful and funny and ultimately touching as Tallulah Bankhead.
And you didn't even see it?
Wait,
I
time
did.
out. Did you see Luke?
I did, yes, I did.
All right.
I go to the winners.
I want to go over to this category, featured actress in a musical. Barbara Cook, Sondheim on Sondheim. Katie Finneran, Promises, Promises. Angela Lansbury, A Little Night Music. Corinne Plantadie, Come Fly Away. Lilias White, Fela.
I don't see a race here, guys. I think it's Katie Finneran who steals Promises, Promises right out from under Kristen Chenoweth and Sean Hayes, the two ostensible stars of it.
Petty larceny.
And she's got one song and two scenes, and that's it. And she walks away with
And
the
she
show.
has great chemistry with Sean Hayes. You're like, they should be together. Why is he leaving her at the bar?
Yeah.
And also when she comes
Wait,
around
I
at the
thought it
beginning.
was impossible for a woman to have great chemistry with Sean Hayes because he's gay.
Oh, you read Newsweek.
Now
We had another episode for
we
that.
just have to explain that for people who aren't up on their gay drama politics going on. What happened with Newsweek? It's sort of interesting.
A writer for Newsweek wrote a column in which he expressed a feeling that gay actors who try to play straight roles cause discomfort in the audience because the audience, knowing so much about their private lives, doesn't believe them.
Yeah, I felt that way with Denzel Washington in Fences, for
And it was written by a gay man.
An openly gay man, and it caused the expected ruckus.
What was wrong with this revival of Promises, Promises? I thought I did see it. It's a real dud.
I didn't think much was wrong. I liked it. I thought it was.
God,
I thought it was
no
a
taste.
I thought it was a lot of fun.
Okay.
So sue me.
It's circular key time.
I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought Sean Hayes was terrific in it. Obviously, Kristen Chenoweth was miscast or couldn't carry that part, and Kate Finneran was terrific. I thought it was good. I thought Sean Hayes' chemistry with the audience was great. Maybe not so much with Kristen Chenoweth, but I think that he may well give Douglas Hodge a run for his money on Tony night.
Well, if everybody's voting their pocketbooks and wants a TV star, maybe you're right.
I'm curious, though, what did you think of this Promises, Promises? Because I really did not like it, and I want to tear it apart.
I would have
And he
left.
wants you
I
to
would have
tear it
left it
apart, too.
intermission, but I'm glad I didn't. But I thought Sean Hayes did quite a charming job. Kristen was all wrong. Let's not belabor all the reasons why she was terrible.
Did you like this Promises, Promises?
I'm with Patrick. I had fun.
Thanks.
Well, then maybe it's going to be a sweep there for Best Revival Musical.
No,
It's
that's
not
not
nominated. It's not even
But I
nominated.
do wonder if the fact that her part is so small, no matter how acclaimed, and she was fantastic,
Yeah.
whether whether there will be some voters who feel we really can't give that award for one scene.
And of
Well,
course,
the only-
Angela's going to break a record if she gets.
Right, and there's a lot of sentimental
But it's an
feeling
extended
for that.
sequence where they go from the bar to his apartment. I mean, and it's equal in size to Angela's part.
Finneran, yeah.
Finneran.
I think they should arm wrestle.
All right, let's get to Best Actor in a Musical, because that's
Yes.
interesting,
Yeah.
too.
Leading actor in a musical: Kelsey Grammer, La Cage aux Folles; Sean Hayes, Promises, Promises; Douglas Hodge, La Cage aux Folles;
Leaves no excuses.
Chad Kimball, Memphis; Sar Ngauja, Fela.
Well done.
did it.
Susan.
Easy for you to say.
All right, Michael.
I think it's going to be Douglas Hodge just for
Being the
going there.
transvestite Alba.
I didn't see any connection between his album in Act 1 and Act 2, but whatever. He really goes to that place.
It does it.
Well, and that role is an award magnet.
Yeah.
Let's face it. But and I think he probably will win. But I wish that people would remember the incredible performance of Sa Ngauja in Fela.
Boy, the timing that Susan was talking about earlier makes all the difference in the world. I mean, remember, we all thought it was a lock when Sara Ngauja opened earlier in the season, and now that kind of seems forgotten. I wouldn't count out Sean Hayes.
You and Sean Hayes.
I wouldn't count him out.
You should be playing opposite him instead of Kristen Chenoweth. Then there'd be chemistry and the show would work, I think.
Let's point out that Newsweek is closing. So I don't think you want to go there.
I want to say I think Sar Ngauja is going to win for Fela. I think that especially if Memphis beats Fela's Best Musical, I think people will want to honor Fela in some way, and the best way to do it is to honor Sar because he gives a tremendous performance.
Sar Ngauja is one of the greatest performers I have seen.
And I think he could. I also just want to say I thought Kelsey Grammer was wonderful in La Cage aux Folles. It's not the flashy part; it's the straight guy. It was unexpected and such a subtle performance. It really was lovely. Should we do actress in a musical quickly?
Yes, leading actress in a musical: Kate Baldwin, Vivian's Rainbow; Montego Glover, Memphis; Christiane Null, Ragtime; Sherry Renee Scott, Everyday Rapture; and Catherine Zeta-Jones, A Little Nightmare.
I think the star wins this one.
This is really competitive.
It's very
I think They're
competitive.
pretty evenly matched.
And 4 people are now saying, you don't think I'm a star? I'm actually going to go out on a limb and say Sherry Renee Scott.
I think so too.
I think the theater community loves her.
And she's fantastic. And the show did not get a
And
nomination
who really
for
said that Catherine
Best
Zeta-Jones was
Musical.
perfectly cast as Desiree? She kind of came off like a very,
she's
like
a hoyden.
a chorus girl or
I
something.
thought she was stunning and wonderful.
She did beautiful on the big song.
She did really well on the big song. I didn't like her until Send in the Clowns, and then she just really nailed it. And maybe that's what the Tony voters are going to remember when they get to marking their ballot. But I agree. I think Sherry Renee Scott's terrific in that show. She wrote it, co-wrote it with
Dick Scanlon.
Dick Scanlon.
Why do you think the show wasn't nominated?
Because they had to fit in Memphis?
Or $1 million.
I think it's the
$1
kind
million quartet.
It's the kind of show that would have been in the special event category when they had
Yeah,
that.
right,
It's more of
yeah.
a glorified cabaret act,
Right.
and she's playing herself or a version of herself.
Well, that doesn't give it enough credit. I think it was.
No, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right,
So
we got
basically, we're done. I just
got-
want to say, do you think Memphis will get best score, beating out 2 play scores and the Addams Family?
Yes, I do.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right,
Memphis.
yes, I do.
Right.
And as we wrap it up, what do you think this Tony Award telecast is going to look like this year? You get any sense? Is it going to be livelier than years
Big
past?
black screen. I'm not watching.
Because you were thrown off the
That's
motor.
right.
That's
they
right.
won't look at me. I won't look at
You
them.
won't look at them. Michael,
A lot more star wattage this year. Just Jude Law alone elevates the whole thing. Denzel Washington, Catherine Zeta-Jones. Even if they don't win, they're going to be there.
Oh, how
I'm
exciting.
going to watch.
I'm sure that the producer is slitting his throat because Addams Family isn't nominated, because then they could have something of great appeal. But I don't know. I think
No, that's only if you haven't seen the show.
that's true.
Yeah, I think the key thing to watch is if Fela can put on a really good number on the telecast and get themselves at the beginning of the telecast, it can really, really help Fela's box office, which, despite the good reviews and the goodwill towards it, has really been struggling. And I wonder if American Idiot will sway people who watch the Tonys to come to see the show or keep people away because it's so loud and rocky. Any sense
It
of
really has a lot to do with how smart the producers are about packaging it for the TV camera,
Yeah.
which is an entirely
Yes,
different
an
art.
American Idiot, I think, could be packaged excellently.
Well, they did a number on the Grammys,
Yeah.
and that's what jump-started the whole
Yeah.
show. It sold
Yeah.
tons of
Yeah.
tickets.
I think-
Right. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. We will have you back to kind of assess the Tonys after they all been handed out. Patrick Pacheco from New York One on Stage and the Los Angeles Times, and your new movie, Waking Sleeping Beauty, theaters near you. Michael Musto of The Village Voice.
New movie? Saw it 3 years ago.
And what's that blog of yours called?
DailyMusto.com. Loved your cheetah show. DailyMusto.com.
And Jesse Green from New York Magazine, who doesn't blog, but who reads blogs.
That's right.
All right, thanks. Thank you all, gentlemen.
Our thanks to the Friends of Theater Talk for their significant contribution to this production.
Theater Talk is made possible in part by the Frederick Lowe Foundation, the Eleanor Naylor Dana Charitable Trust, the Alan S. Gordon Foundation, the Corey and Bob Donnelly Charitable Fund, Carrie J. Fries, the Dorothy Strelson Foundation, the New York City Department of Cultural Affairs, and the New York State Council on the Arts, a state agency.
We welcome your questions or comments for Theater Talk. Thank you and good night.